Welcome to Fish Geekery. I'm Patty Mesha, and this week we'll be looking at a couple of news stories from the western U.S. These articles came from the LA Times and Reuters. You can find links to the articles below. In the San Joaquin Valley of Central California, moving forward means going back to the way things used to be. The San Joaquin River used to be so full of spawning Chinook salmon that the splashing would often keep settlers awake at night. Farmers would feed the fish to their hogs. As agriculture in the area increased, more and more of the river's water was being used for crop irrigation. In the 1940s, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation built Friant Dam, which diverted most of the river into irrigation canals. During the drier months, the river just completely dried up. Needless to say, this was not helpful to the salmon. In the 1980s, environmental groups made the argument that California's Fish and Game Code required that dam owners allow enough water through to sustain healthy fish populations. After 20 years of legal struggle, a settlement was finally reached requiring the owners to allow enough water through to restore year-round flow. Here's the first problem. Next time you're in the produce section at the grocery store, take a look at the labels. Notice how many of them say California. The river is lined with farm fields, and when it dries up, those fields spread to include the floodplain. Another obstacle is the condition of the riverbed itself. After 60 years of being little more than a low spot in the ground, shrubs and trees have moved in and would choke any new flow. Some parts have been narrowed by flood levees. Areas where the river historically split into smaller channels have been developed to the point where the riverbed simply wouldn't be able to handle the full flow. Even after the overgrowth removal, dredging, and erosion control structures that usually come with restoration projects, early test flows ended up spreading water under nearby fields and damaging crops. Interceptor drains, which redirect water before it reaches fields, can help save crops, but at nearly $250,000 per system, funding could quickly become a problem. However, efforts are beginning to pay off. In late 2012, biologists released 104 Chinook salmon into the upper San Joaquin River, and have since found 11 nests, known as redds, upstream of the release site. There are still dry areas downstream, so the fry won't have anywhere to go yet. This year's batch will likely swim around aimlessly until they become food for other animals, but biologists are encouraged by the fact that the transported salmon spawned at all. Once the restoration project is complete, the San Joaquin River will run again, and hopefully, so will the salmon. Further up the west coast, scientists in Washington state were fascinated to find 5 striped beak fish native to the warm, shallow waters of eastern Asia, alive in the hold of a 20-foot boat that washed up on shore last month. The boat was washed away by the tsunami that devastated Japan in March of 2011. And has been drifting across the Pacific ever since. Now, this isn't by far the only thing that was sent across the ocean by the tsunami. Several other boats have washed up along the west coast of North America, along with a few massive chunks of pier and several tons of other debris. What makes this boat different is that it carried the first vertebrates, or animals with backbones, to our shores. What has biologists scratching their heads is that these fish were alive. In the relative shallows near shore, nutrient-rich water from the deep gets pushed up toward the surface. These nutrients give a big boost to plankton, the base of almost every marine food web. As you move out into the open ocean, those nutrients drop back down into the depths, leaving vast stretches of water virtually lifeless. So how did these fish find enough food to survive the 2-year journey? I really don't have an answer to that, and until someone learns how to speak fish, no one really does. The fish, along with 30 to 50 other species of stowaways found aboard the skiff, were treated as potentially invasive, meaning that if they were to escape into the wild, they could outcompete native species. The boat was quickly removed from the beach, and after as many of the hitchhikers as possible were removed, the boat was scraped and steam cleaned. 4 of the 5 fish have died since their ordeal, and the lone surviving fish has been moved to the Seaside Aquarium in Oregon. According to the aquarium's Facebook page, it's adjusting well to its new home. Thank you for joining us this week on Fish Geekery. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, we can be reached at Facebook, Twitter, and of course in the comments below. If you'd like to see something new from the world of fisheries every week, you can go to youtube.com/fishgeekery and subscribe. See you next week!